Steve and Lori, you might be a little bit discombobulated at this point, wondering what's going on, but we have gathered several friends together to honor you because 20 years ago you arrived here in Decatur to become the latest pastor at First Bible Church, and you have left quite a legacy, and we just would like to take some time to honor all that you have brought to us. Of course, my story with you goes back even a little further than 20 years. It was a little over 25 years ago that I was just a lost, scared little senior in high school, 18-year-old, who started having questions about God and didn't know where to go. But I heard about this youth pastor and his new wife who he would hang out in the high school cafeteria where I went to school. And so we knew you were a safe place to go and ask. And through you and Lori, that's how I learned about Christ, and I decided to put my trust in Him. Lori, you gathered several of us girls who were brand new Christians and taught us just the basics of reading the Bible, praying, just how to walk with God. And of course, Steve, you taught us well from the Word. I never knew a time where being a Christian was not tied to missions, world missions. I just always knew because of y'all that those went together. So it's no surprise that after being under your teaching for several years, when I did graduate from college, I went to the mission field. And I really do think so often about how who y'all are has been such an influence just even in my ministry. I think about Steve, you being there. You weren't waiting for the world to come to your church, but you went to the world where I was and others like me. And so that is a huge influence on me to have a ministry where I'm with the people who don't know Jesus yet. And Lori, I mean, you're still who I want to be when I grow up. Just your tender care for me over the years. It has just meant the world to me. So I would just like to personally thank y'all. You've been like parents to me. And I'm just so grateful that the Lord has brought you into my life. And I'm really grateful too to have a continued relationship with you through First Bible. And I know I'm just one of many, many, many whose lives have been changed because of you. So thank you so much. Congratulations on 20 years here. We all just love you so much, and we want you to know just how much you mean to us. Thanks.
I'm convinced, Steve, that vision is the ability to be able to see, with faith, to see the future. And you have been a pastor of vision, being able to see the future for this church, and we have been the beneficiaries of that vision. You have led the church, and I'm convinced that no church is going to do anything in relationship to world missions unless their pastor has been in the front. And you have been in the front of this church leading them into world missions. And we appreciate that because we have been the beneficiaries of that investment, of your giving. Now, I would like to challenge you to give it another 25. There are a lot more people to be reached. Italy is an unreached country, but so are so many other places in this world have never heard the gospel. And we need pastors that are going to be men of vision, who are going to look to the future and say there's much more to be done. Let's take a step of faith. And we thank you for the steps of faith that you have taken, Steve.
I think that what is so great about First Bible and the ministry that you have had, Steve, is that you have obviously chosen to make this a world-impacting church. So you haven't just focused on your local area, Decatur, which you've done well doing that, but you've focused on the world, and you've kept that before your people. And that is a very rare thing. We have traveled up and down the United States as missionaries over all these years, raising support, and we've been in many, many churches. And we can honestly say that we have found none on this same level of investment in the kingdom of God in all the world. And we have been the great recipients of that from the very first day that we went out until now. 25 years later, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year in Italy, and there's a church in Italy today. And it's a growing and a vibrant congregation, and it's full of young adults who want to serve the Lord and change the world. That wasn't there 25 years ago. And so that's been part of what you've contributed to the world evangelization. Without going to Italy, you sent us, and yet God has done a great and mighty thing. And one of the things I think that has been so beautiful is that as a congregation, not just your leadership, but the whole congregation, you have made us feel loved. And on so many occasions, in so many ways over the years, we have come home here and felt like celebrities. Yesterday, I was taken shopping and just loved on so well, and taken to a favorite place for lunch, and just little loving gestures all through the years. And how can we ever thank you and your leadership, but also the entire congregation who has followed you so faithfully and done so much. And we just want to say thank you and happy 20th anniversary.
Well, I'm really grateful for this opportunity to congratulate Steve on this very special occasion. 20 years in the same church and people still loving you is a real blessing, and it shows a lot about who Steve is. Now, I wanted to do an acronym of his name, Steve, so I thought, well, maybe I can Google the name Steve and find something. Nothing. Can you imagine? Nothing on Google about Steve. So I came up with my own original, which is probably good because I considered Steve an original. For S, I thought right away of his steadfastness. 20 years in the same church, same ministry, certainly shows steadfastness. I think of him as being a teacher of truth. Teacher of truth. The doctrine is great, and there's no excuse for the people of First Bible not to be grounded if they will listen, learn, and apply what he teaches. For E, I thought of Steve being enjoyable. It's always fun to be around Steve. He makes you smile. He often makes you laugh. He's just fun. And you know, I really think of Steve portraying this aspect of Jesus Christ when he was on earth. I know Jesus was very serious, but I know he must have been enjoyable to be around too, and had lots of fun. I think of the V as being Steve being vivacious, full of vim, vigor, and vitality. He always seems to be moving, active, and very engaged with the people and with his ministry. And then, most of all, as a missionary, I think of Steve as being an encourager. For the many years now that I've personally been affiliated with the church, First Bible Church, Steve has always been an encouragement. I've known he's there, and even when I'm on the mission field, I can listen to his sermons. But I just know that he is there supporting us in every way that he can. So my hat is off to Steve, and I wish him God's greatest blessing. Thank you, Steve, for all you're doing for missions. Thank you too, Steve, for coming to Moldova. I still remember when you were there. I still remember the sermon that you preached at Voice of Truth. So you've made a great impact in not only my life, but the lives of those on the mission field. Now, you can't be this great as Steve is without a good helpmate. And I thought, well, what can we do with Lori's name? And this is what I thought. L in Lori stands for loving. When I think of Lori, I think of a loving person. And isn't love the greatest gift of all? For the O, I thought of her being an overcomer of obstacles. She has in her loving, sweet spirit a strong inner strength, and she is able to overcome obstacles as she walks with Christ. The R, I think of her as displaying the radiance of Christ in her face, in her being. I see Christ when I see him emulated in her life. And then for the I, she has always taken a personal interest in me. And I've always felt it was a genuine personal interest. And that means so much. I really feel at home when I come to FBC. It's home to me. It's my home church, even if I'm thousands of miles away.
Well, Steve, this is an honor. You know, we had been without a pastor at First Bible Church for 18 months. And so when you and Laurie and two little bitty children drove into Decatur, Alabama, we were really happy to see you. And you know, our attendance, we had gone through some trying times, and I think God used that time to strengthen us and to mold us and make us ready to really move out when you got here. Our attendance right before you came was 130 every Sunday, and then today over 850. So you have really had an impact in the lives of the people in this church and also in Decatur and around the world. I remember going on that mission trip with you to Moldova, and the fun that we had and the hard work that you did. And so, you know, missions has been an emphasis from the very beginning, and we really enjoy that. You and Laurie have been so important to the growth of this church and the growth of the people here. When I think of you, I think of a pastor who is not just one who gives orders or preaches sermons. But when I think of you, I think of a person who is relational and who accomplishes goals through people who are empowered to do ministry. And you just don't sit back and give orders, and that's great. Steve, I really appreciate that you motivate your people, not only through teaching, but also through that practical application of your sermons each Sunday, and the wit with which you keep us not only engaged, but sometimes chuckling. And again, I think I have to just end with your emphasis on missions and how our budget for missions has gone. When you came, our mission budget was $20,000, and today our mission budget is $345,100. And so we just appreciate you and love both of you and those two children also. They're included in this. Love you.
Steve, what a privilege to be with you on this celebration of 20 years of ministry. I remember you as a student. You were so bright, so fun-loving, and so deeply committed to God. And now to see all of that bloom into the full bloom of manhood. It's like Paul says to Timothy, "O man of God." And when he said that, Paul was on death row, and he was content to go because he knew that Timothy was competent to take the word and pass it on to the next generation. Steve, that's the way I feel about you. I'm content that you are a man of God, able to pass the word along to the next generation. So I just encourage you, keep going, keep growing, keep giving yourself. May God bless you as richly in the next 20 years as He has in these first 20.
Go crazy.